I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
You can't just go forward like a Stepford wife and just do your stuff every day. There has to be something more.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. Today's episode is about falling in love when you're just not supposed to. Now, according to most researchers on the subject, human sexual orientation is in fact a spectrum. The Kinsey Scale, for instance, one of the most widely used classification systems, rates people along a scale from 0, entirely heterosexual, to 6, entirely homosexual. And there are hundreds of these classification systems. They all take into account different kinds of factors. But whatever you may think of any of the individual systems, it does appear that each of us is uniquely oriented sexually. Now, some of us learn about our orientation very early in lives, and arguably some of us never fully discover who we are sexually. And some of us discover who we are only after getting married and starting a family. Today's guests have a story to tell us along these lines, and frankly, they tell it much better than I do. So with that, let's go to our interview with Ginny and Jody.
For many years, I taught journalism at a community college in Sacramento, and our students would write the stories and put together the paper, and they would when we started doing PageMaker in those days, they would never do anything about the editing of the stories anymore. They just wanted to play with the computers. And so the woman who was advising with me and I said, we need someone to just do the design part with our students. And so, long story short, the design people, we went over and talked to the graphic design department at the community college, and they gave us Jody. And both of us were in a relationship at the time with someone else. And Jody had...
I was actually married to a man.
To a man?
Yeah.
And with children. And she'd been married for 14 years. Mm-hmm. But both of us were struggling. And we just...
In our own relationship.
You were struggling in relationships,
you
mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we both we immediately just started talking about everything, because a lot of waiting in the school newspaper business because the students take forever.
They're still laying out the pages, and you're just there for hours. It's kind of like a sport, an after-school sport.
Yeah, exactly. And so we just talked about everything, and we really did. I mean, we just talked, and it was just great to talk to somebody who was, she was just very open and inquisitive about life, and that's kind of how I perceived myself. And so, and I think also because we were with other people, there was a kind of safety to, I mean, we were obviously drawn to each other, but
for me, it was like, Ginny really lights me up. She's still just, bing, I just light up when I see her, when I think about her. And I remember having a really candid moment where I just said, God, I am just so in love with you, / you're the wrong gender. So, shit.
So wait, how long into the...
Months?
Months?
A couple months.
Oh, yeah.
Several months.
Yeah, several months. And this was in the fall semester, and it was also, just to place it in time, it was September 11th. It was
that happened
that
during
year.
Our second publication was the week that happened. That happened on a Tuesday, and the newspaper goes out on a Wednesday.
And that was so intense.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's causing people to rethink everything in their lives.
And she was, I was in a relationship with somebody that I was sure was seeing someone else. And
they were living together.
We lived together, but we were, and actually it turns out she's a really good friend of mine now. And we really had no business being together. I mean, it was just, we were in it for the wrong reasons.
One of those.
They're both really charismatic.
Yeah,
lovely people.
It was kind of we were like the same person in the relationship, except that she had no interest in talking about anything serious. But anyway, so Jody was So I knew this was happening. I mean, I was sure we had gone to Europe together that summer, and I was sure she was seeing that she was communicating with something. She said, nope. So anyway, now it's fall, September 11th, all that's happening. And then Jody said, and she had already said that she was struggling in her relationship, that
Been
there
in
was
therapy, and I was having actually a really hard time getting the emotional connection I needed from my relationship to my ex. So, and for years. So we did the therapy thing and this and that. And it was just that something isn't working.
If you had got an emotional connection with him, do you think you'd still be with him?
Probably. Yeah. I tried. I didn't want to, my kids were 14 and 11, and my daughter's older than my son. And, what are the ramifications of not staying with the other parent of your child, your children? But I was kind of like a zombie, just going through all the motions. So it was getting to work on this newspaper was just fantastic. And so everything was all lit up about that. That was great. And then just having more meaningful conversations, but then also just Ginny. And I remember Ginny walking away when she was going to go on the trip.
No, it was
after. You were going to something for your birthday.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, that ache, like, and it wasn't like we could even be together or I would even know what to do with her if I was with her. I just liked being around her and talking to her. And so,
and then her marriage was getting kind of worse, right? Yeah. And then by Thanksgiving, then she had decided that she was getting out of that marriage. But I was still with this person who was not seeing someone else.
How long was Thanksgiving after that trip?
Well, the trip was September and Thanksgiving was November.
Yeah. So she decides she's going to leave the husband, and
by leave, I had to literally, I broke up with him / got a twin bed that fit under my son's bunk bed, and I was 40 years old sleeping in a bunk bed in my son's room. That's how that worked.
Because I make a separation however you can.
There was not a lot of extra dough lying around.
Yeah.
And then it just gave me some time to figure out. I wanted everyone in my house to start figuring out, okay, something is different. But I wanted my kids to know, well, this is still where we are. We're still loved. We still do things with our mom and our dad, or mom and dad together, or whatever. And ultimately, I moved. I found a little house to rent that was 6 blocks away from the other house, and right in the same neighborhood where both the schools were. And so then they lived with me for a week, and they lived with their dad for a week. Uh-huh. And it still sucks when your parents get divorced. It's just the worst thing ever. And at the same time, we just kept it that way. I didn't get remarried. I didn't bring another person into my house that was a parent to my kids. My kids were only parented by me and their dad.
Right.
So,
and what were their ages again at that point?
My daughter was between 13 and 14, and my son was about 11.
Yeah, okay. 10 or 11.
Yeah.
She didn't take it well.
She
did not take it well.
Tough age.
When I told her, they had met Ginny, but it was never hey kids, this is my new partner.
But in the meantime, then by Christmas, over Christmas vacation, a couple days after Christmas, the woman that I was with said, finally, I'm seeing someone else.
So, and had been that whole time, but just didn't want to admit it.
Because your spider sense is no.
Did you ever, just as a side conversation, did you ever confront her as to why she didn't want to just tell you?
Oh,
it wasn't necessary.
She was just scared, and it was ridiculous. It was just, and I could tell you why, because she doesn't really know. As much as I love her as a friend, she is with someone now, and I swear that I also used to know, and I know her, but I've known them both separately, and they're perfect because they don't talk about anything.
They talk about certain things.
Yeah, but I'll say
they're very comfortable. They're very happy.
Yeah, so it's good. So,
I get that. Okay.
yeah.
That makes her happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't want to talk about anything, including the relationship that
Yeah.
you were asking her specifically.
Well,
Yeah.
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 It's hard to tell the truth,
Yeah.
especially when you are hurting someone
Yeah.
or lying to someone or
Yeah.
cheating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are hard.
So she finally tells you in December, and what was your reaction?
Oh, I felt terrible because I partly just felt betrayed, but I wasn't even. Jody to me seemed like a person that just, as much as I was drawn to her as a human, she seemed like just full of chaos to me. And I had come from a family where there was a lot of chaos. And I was I was the only sane one in my group, and I had to kind of fix it all the time. And so I was just like, oh, I can't possibly do this. And it made me so anxious. And so when eventually, this person and I break up, and then Jody says, oh, I really want to be with you. And I said, oh, no, this is way
She said
too-
we could just be friends.
Well, Jody, wait a minute. So there's a piece of the story missing, though.
Well, we did a little leap there.
We did, which is how you transitioned from identifying.
And it's so funny. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, right, because you identified as a married straight woman,
Yes.
and then it sounded like you identified as a divorced straight woman for a moment, right?
Who had a fat crush on a woman. Yeah.
Which you hadn't at first articulated to yourself was a crush. And then so that's what I'm curious about. At what point did you realize, oh, this is a crush?
I
And that
realized the
means-
crushing early, but I didn't think there was anything you could do about that. But then I had to learn some stuff. So some stuff that I learned, and let me tell you, I spent a little time. I had a little identity crisis because I was stunned to be in love with a woman. I started dating when I was 15. It was always a man. It was always a guy. It was never crossed my mind. I was on the rowing team in college.
Had you been in love with men?
Yeah.
Or just dated them? Yeah.
No,
Okay. So you had
just
been
in love.
Yeah.
And so then I'm reading. I'm like, what is happening? I'm going to therapy. I'm just like, what? And then I learn about that, sexuality, gender, but also sexuality is a spectrum. And so there's people on one side that are totally straight, and people on the other side that are so gay, and then every little notch in between. And so I just sort of identify with the center. And it turns out that, and for me, if I'm in love with someone, then that's who I can be with. They don't have to be a certain gender. I fall in love with their brain and their spirit. So, but I had to win her. Over because apparently in the lesbian community, which I knew nothing about, I'm like, God, do I need to get my hair cut shorter? Do I need to wear flannel and corduroy now? I mean, it was the worst.
Did you really think
I really said those things out loud.
Did you
Plus
say
I
them
was-
to Ginny?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, do I need to? What? And she laughed.
And she
was
actually
great.
did get her hair
I
cut.
did
She
get
had
my
really
hair cut.
long hair, and she cut it really short, and it was not the best look.
But now it's short again, but
Yeah,
it's the
it's-
best look.
Yeah.
So, it was terrible. Like, and I can remember going to an event with a bunch of women. A lot of them were gay women, and they were all friends that I'd known for a few years, and this was their first introduction to Ginny, and she said, all right, how many of you guys have been with each other? And they're all like, everyone in the room had been with someone else in the room because it was just a family. Like, that's the other thing. There's some different phenomenon about, because I studied this, that a lot of the gay community, if you break up with someone, then they're just your best friend or one of your friends. That's in part of your big cohort.
I think there is just a thing about women, too.
It's a woman thing, probably.
Yeah, they're sort of like they're in the little collective of your group, that group or something. But
yeah. So then I was just like just blatantly in love with Ginny, just following her around like a little puppy, and she was like, "You're nice, but You have those kids.
Well, yeah, and I my best friend has kids that she adopted from India that were little tiny kids at this time, and I just thought I already have those people that I'm kind of connected with, and I just didn't need to be. And also, it just seemed chaotic. I mean, and Jody is a person who is like I am. Like, we're all gonna die, and Jody's like, no, we're not. It's gonna be great. You can't believe how great it's going to be.
If you go over here and then you do this and then you just wait a second and then you do that.
That's never going to happen. And this little house that she rented, for example, very quickly, within a few months, the people that...
within a year.
Yeah, so within a year, yeah. They say, I mean, this was after we were together, but still, they said, we're going to sell this house, and so...
And I was just self-employed graphic designer. Yeah, discernible income. I was making money, but it was like, just project to project.
So Jody says, I'm going to buy that house. And I just think,
here we go.
You are so not going to buy that house because that's never going to happen.
That's really nice, honey. Let me know how that goes.
And sure enough, she did. And that, I mean, to me, that's really, for me, one of the greatest things about being with Jody is that she really is just truly, truly an optimist and in a actually well-considered way. But my view has been often to be fearful and to say, no, we can't do that. I mean, I think that's why I was responding when we were talking about that earlier, that, and I was afraid of her because she seemed so almost unrealistic in her whole view of the world, and like she wanted to tell her kids right away when we got together and when we did get together, and they, because she said, it will be worse if, especially with her daughter, if she knows that we've been together for a long time and haven't told.
It would be like you being in that relationship and saying, "Hey, are you with someone else?" And then no, yes.
So so she told him right away, and
not immediately, not the next day.
Her daughter Danielle was a a teenager. She was a cheerleader, and that kind of girl, and she took it really badly, and
she sobbed.
And she and I didn't have any contact. Danielle and I didn't have any contact for maybe couple of years. But and we spent every other week together for 5 years. We only saw each other every other week because
five and a half.
It was when 5.5 when she was with her kids.
Oh, right.
She would be with them,
right?
And we would communicate, and because
they
she had
knew
been
of
truthful,
Ginny, but we didn't have to be around Ginny.
And sometimes Nathan, her son, he came over to my house sometimes with her, but not very often.
A couple times.
So we would just either part on Sunday at the end of the day or regroup on Sunday. So Sunday was sometimes good, sometimes awful.
That was the exchange
day.
The
handoff day. But actually, in a lot of ways, because I had been in a lot of relationships in my life, it was a really good way to do it because it was very conscious, our time together and then our time apart. And it was possible to feel myself in a relationship but separate from someone because we would have this time when we weren't together, and so it was real. I never could have, I couldn't have come up with an idea like that. Nor would I probably recommend it necessarily, but it was, really good for both of us. Because
and we were each in therapy, our own therapists, and Ginny would come back from therapy and she would say, well, first, okay, my therapist loves you.
Yeah,
she loves you, but she really just loves that we don't live together.
Well, yeah, it was such
it keeps it slow.
It was such it was very slow, and we were able to really see each other in a lot of situations that didn't get all mucked up in, all the other stuff of life,
Yeah.
So we didn't live together.
So it was actually quite something to be able to do that. And then when we did, at the end of that 5.5 years, by that time Danielle was
second year in college.
Yeah, she was in college, and
second year.
Nathan was fine. He was always fine about it, but and he was about to be a junior in high school then. Mm-hmm. And then we sold our two houses, and we bought this house together, and we like to say that we waited until the housing market was as bad as it could be.
We paid the most for the house and got the least for our houses, but
then, and now, of course, Danielle is completely fine. I mean, it's now it's like that.
By the
never
time
even
she
happened.
graduated from high school, everything was good. We had the party at my little house, and
Yeah.
There's a bit that I still, if you don't mind, if you'll let me go back and put a period on
Anytime.
the sentence
Anytime.
of the very beginning. You were transitioning this identity of yours, and you talk about it now like you just did some research on the internet and then it was done.
no, not just the internet. I bought books.
Yeah.
I was, I'd been a Christian, with a cross.
Not for 100
Not
years.
a bad Christian.
No, but I mean, it wasn't like you grew up as.
Well, I kind of.
But that
it
was
there.
part
But
of
I
the-
had made a conscious effort with my.
That was one of the
Ex.
ways they were going to save their marriage.
Was Christianity.
We got baptized, even though my mom was like, "You were already baptized when you were a baby," and I was like, "Well, now I'm a conscious adult,
Yeah.
so I'm choosing this." So, and the church was not nice about me
And
being
not
with a woman,
or getting a divorce even.
well, they didn't. Whatever, that disrupts your family, and that's a bad thing. But the whole the woman thing, I remember sending an email and just saying, I wasn't like secretly gay this whole time and just like lying to everyone, and I didn't know. But it turns out, like the gay thing, it's a biological thing. Like there's this whole part of me that this is just part of me. And the guy said, the pastor, who I'd really respected and liked, and he was like, have they really proven that there's like a biological connection to this?
Guy, come on. In this day and
And
age.
I thought he was a really enlightened human being, but so I even found there are other, how there's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Well, there's other people. There's Thomas, and there's other ones who also wrote, but they didn't make it into the Bible. And so I'm reading up about them, and what I was trying to find some validation that you could just love the one you love. It really, like if you find someone and they light you up like this, and it's not just like you're driving by and you're like, how you doing? It's big. Then I was looking for someone who had maybe experienced that and who might be in the Bible, or I don't know. I don't know why that was important at the time. I think I was just, I was really stunned.
Yeah.
And then I rebounded and I was like, okay, well, I just embraced Ginny. I embraced us.
But what was it that allowed you to embrace that or accept that?
Oh, it was so much better than being a zombie.
Oh.
The
contrast between
you just can't be a zombie. You just can't just go forward like a Stepford wife and just do your stuff every day. There has to be something more. And when it's right there, and you're like, hey, I don't know. I think too, Ginny is so verbal and so good at saying what's going on in your head and how you feel. I don't know. She just made it really safe for me to talk and process and feel safe and loved. And really, at the end of the day, just always the best version of myself. That's what I just get to live this best version of myself.
Around Ginny?
Yeah. Just because she encourages that level of communication. I mean, sometimes I can't go to work because we're in a little scuff, and we just have to sit down and get through it. We just have to talk it out. And then we've talked it out, and then life is still good, because in the couple of times when we couldn't get it solved and someone still had to go to work, then it just feels like crap all day. Mm-hmm. All day we're just like, oh, it just doesn't feel right, So we get it. Yeah,
it's the most authentic relationship I've ever even come in the neighborhood of, because we can, and it's not easy all the time, but it's, to sort of stop that kind of classic way that you argue with people, like you're like, well, you're, and we can just stop that and sort of go, what is this? What's going on? And
I'm so glad you said that, because I want to ask about how because you've written about that a little bit. I want to ask how you guys navigate that. But first I want to know,
why is Jody gay now?
Well, that you kind of answered for me, actually.
Because of the zombie. It was the zombie. Yeah.
Well, it was because it was, and then it sounds like you allowed yourself to be what you were because of the contrast.
So yeah, I mean, I probably always was in the center line.
Yeah.
And then I just found this one.
Ginny was the catalyst in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, but then my question for Ginny is, you were reluctant at first because you saw chaos, and I'm imagining you also saw maybe a newbie or a dilettante or something.
And by that time, I had been. I mean,
the worst, like the lesbian joke about don't.
Yeah, because I'd been out for 30 years and when we met, and so really that. That is you don't get with somebody, a straight woman,
because
and especially if she's married, has an ex,
they're just going to go back to the guy. But I think I really pretty quickly saw that isn't really who she was, and also see that slowness, that 5.5 years thing. I mean, we had the opportunity to. I mean, there's a kind of a, you can fill in a lot of the unknown and a lot of the foundation of something if you're going slowly, which I just never had done before. I mean, where you really can, you get to know each other. There's a trust. There's a kind of, if somebody comes back every Sunday, and there's.
There is that joke. Lesbians are always telling the U-Haul joke.
Yeah. And
why is that? Why
because
do you think
we're women.
Phenomenon?
Women just
I do think there's a thing about women.
Settle.
I think there's kind of, and I think also, and I'm doing some writing about this that hasn't quite come to fruition yet, but I think that they're about being gay anyway, and I don't know so much about gay men, but I think if you've felt a lot of shame in your life growing up, and then you find somebody where it's okay to be with them, I think you would there must be something where you're like, I'm getting with this person.
Yeah.
Because I've been tortured for the whole life, so I'm just going to do this.
Now,
why people keep doing that, I don't quite know, because I certainly know women who have been with that person, and then this is. But I see it with
that happens with straight couples too.
And I have a friend who has a niece who's gay, and she's doing exactly what we did when we were that age. And I think it is like you're like, well, I got to get with somebody, and this is who I'm going to get with, because it is a little bit hard in the world still, even though the world is so much more accepting. There's still a thing. I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah, it just is still a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so that makes sense. So you were reluctant for that reason.
Yeah, and it just seemed, but really because
I have those kids, and
there were a lot of good reasons not to get with
and my
you.
daughter was just like, no, and but then now either one of them would just fight you to the ground.
Well, that I want to get to too, but I want to know what shifted for Ginny. Why did you finally decide?
Well, it's funny, but we really did. I just thought, well, maybe we should just have sex, because that would be
just
fun.
be friends with benefits.
Yeah.
That's always the day.
I was like, okay, but I'm in love with you. But okay, if that's what it is for you.
And as it turns out, I mean, I had never really had relationships like that where it was just for sexual purposes anyway. And so, of course, all I was really doing was saying, I'm going to pretend like it's this.
Right, that's what I was.
It's really going to be this,
Okay.
And so very quickly then, and I, because I had to, I mean, how there's that thing you think, how long do you wait from between a relationship? And then now it was March or so, and my girlfriend had left in December. And so, well, this is probably an acceptable period of time to get involved in something else. And then, and then it was, so I just turned 50, so it was kind of a turning point time in my life in a certain way, and so I just thought, well, I'm going to do this, and then it just seemed good, and then it just kept on being good, and really the conflict piece, when we did have conflict, and you had said we'll come back to this, but I remember this. We were out we had a different dog than these dogs, and we were out. It was in my old neighborhood, and we were walking the dog in a schoolyard, and the dog we were letting him be free, and we ran into this guy, an older man who was like going to scold us.
He was shaming
because we let the dog run free, and so, and you know how that is, like. So you're sort of being attacked from the outside by this guy. Well, Jody just let the guy have it. I mean, not...
He triggered something.
Yeah. And so they didn't...
It was shame.
They didn't have to call the police or anything. But so I was like horrified because I don't want to draw any attention. I always want everything to just be nice, And so... So she was like really upset.
I wouldn't do it that way again, by the way.
So we were walking back and we got into this big fight. And it was the first time we'd had a really big fight. And I was like, this is horrifying. And she switched into this different gear than that I see it still, but only occasionally, where she'll just be like, well, you're just saying that I'm like this and you're just like that, where it's not a conversation anymore.
No one's listening.
And so I said, wait, stop. I said, stop. And the more I would say stop, and which I didn't get at the time.
The more she would escalate.
Another trigger.
And so finally, I remember exactly where we were in this house, and we sat down on the floor. I finally said, let's sit down
like
here.
Against the wall, just sink down.
And then we could sort of go, what happened? And then it was like pickup sticks, where you can kind of go, well, first this guy said this, and then this is how that made me feel. And then, oh, well, when you yelled, then this is how. Mm-hmm. So we could see that then, we could. And see, I knew those things because I have a little bit of a background in interpersonal stuff because I taught it for a long time. But when you actually practice that, it's different than reading in a book.
Totally different.
And so we, being able to do that, and we still can do it. And later, we understood that me saying stop, one of Jody's really big issues is not being heard.
Yeah, right.
And so me saying stop was like, not only are you not being heard, I don't want to hear you.
Right.
And so... But once it's escalated, it's hard to sort of go, let's tone it back. Let's tone it down.
Because it's like your lizard primitive brain is all lit up.
We're very
running
primitive.
the show.
We are. Yes.
And so it goes right to those basic things. And what I learned, and that's why I'm telling this whole long story, is that Jody she does have a lot of there's
a lot of chaos,
but I trust her to contain it.
Okay, so let me ask about Jody's daughter, Danielle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When did she come around and realize this relationship was okay? And what did that
was a
look
great
like?
story. We were in Europe traveling, just Ginny and I. It was 2005. And Danielle was either in her senior year or going that way.
Of high school?
High school. And Ginny, we were in Rome, and Ginny emailed her. And it was before Facebook. I think it was MySpace. But anyway, she emailed her the regular old school way. And darned if Danielle didn't respond.
Yeah, I just thought I need to say, because she was not going to, I could do that. I could say, you know what, I know that I would like to have a relationship with you. I would like to have a relationship with you.
And I love your mom.
Yeah.
And, we both think she's amazing or whatever. I'm just talking about myself I'm amazing now. And then Danielle responded. And so then it was like one morning, Ginny goes, well, I just want to share something with you. And she hadn't told me that she'd emailed Danielle. And here we said we don't have any secrets. But anyway, so she read me this email and I was just... the tears were rolling because Danielle was just like, well, you just have to promise that you're never going to hurt her. And I mean, it just was so clear that my daughter could see that I found someone that makes me so happy and that I still love my daughter. I mean, one of the things we had to work with was I just had to say, I know this is so weird. I'm not with your dad anymore. I know that's a huge thing to take in.
And they're both very close to their dad.
Very huge thing. So now, And now I'm with someone else, and that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. And now this someone else is a woman, so that's a huge thing. But I am still the same person. I'm still the one who met you the second you were born. I was there because that's where you came from, and I know you and I love you, and no one could ever love you more than I love you. They could love you maybe as much if they were really trying hard, but no one's going to ever love you more than me. So there was that, and she had a really rough landing at my house. Like, it was just hard, and there was therapy, and I remember taking her and just hearing her just sobbing, even though there's that little white noise, box, you can still hear when someone's shrieking and sobbing. So I wanted her to feel safe and to be able to process that, and I really made it clear, like, Ginny's not moving in. We're not all moving to Ginny's. Like, we're staying in our separate
That's why we did I said to Jody that, because it was hard enough being a teenager who's gay, to have your mom be
oh my
gay.
God.
I mean,
and she actually got bullied about it.
Because her mom was gay?
Yeah. She had a
boy that
really shitty boyfriend when he wasn't around
and
very
she
long. Didn't
want to sleep with him, and he said, well, you're gay like your mom.
Like mother, like daughter.
Oh, what a prick.
I know.
Really.
I actually got on the old cell phone and I said, this is Danielle's mother. This is not okay. If you do this again, I'm going to your coach and your parents and the school. Like, he was in some team, I don't even remember now, but like, that was his life.
Wow.
So I knew how to
Good for you, Mom.
that tiger, that mom. But one time Danielle just it was probably a time of a teenage girl life where you're gonna be kind of like hysterical sometimes anyway, or act out or individuate or whatever technical term you want to use. And one morning she and I were in some little argument, and then she just stormed out the front door, just bam, like slammed it open and just was gone. And it was 7 a.m. And that doesn't feel safe to me, like leaving like that. I mean, if you're just going to go to school and be safe, whatever. But I don't know. I don't know what you're doing, Yeah. So I did call the school, and I saw that she was there.
Okay.
And then I was there when she got out of school at the high school, and she was a 10th grader at the time. And I just indicated that she needed to get in the car, and so she did. Because that's the thing. I mean, when they're teenagers, they can do some stuff. They can leave, and they can do things. They can be in harm's way, And so I took her to the Denny's nearby because I was going to confront her, and I thought the chances were that she would behave a little more civilly if we were in public than she would at home. And so she, you could tell everyone in the restaurant knew we were having a confrontation. We weren't yelling, but I mean, just the tone of it and the tenor of it. And
yeah.
I just said, listen, we need a new way to work with each other because this isn't working. It's not working. So I have this little contract that I've typed up, and it basically just says, if we're mad, we're going to take a time out for 10 minutes, and then we're going to circle back, and if we're not ready, we're going to go apart again because there were times when I really could picture, just both of my hands around her neck, just strangling her.
I've heard that from so many parents on this show. I can't even begin to tell you.
I know. I hope I don't go to jail, but it never happened. I never did have to go to
now
that.
she's 28.
But so we there was a little moment where she started to get up and she was just going to storm out of that restaurant. And I said, you know what, honey, the thing is, I'm on your side, and I want what's good for you. I want everything you want. I want that for you. Anything you want, that's what I want. And so if you leave right now, though, the problem is, someday you're going to want to go to college. Someday you're going to want a car. These are things you're in high school. You're going to want a car. You're going to want to go to college. You want to go have a good life. And if you leave right now, then I don't know. I can't help you with that. I mean, I just threatened her. And fortunately, it snapped her out of it enough to come sit back down until we could figure. But to her, signing a piece of paper, I'm like, you can change it, you can cross things out, you could rewrite this, you can make this contract however you want to have it. I just want us to both agree.
Yeah.
And to her, that just felt like a fail. It felt like a loss, like she was losing something by, like that was some concession, But things did work out a lot better after that, I have to say. So that's why I like to share that.
She went to college.
You don't have to share this story with real people, but I just like
she went to
it.
college and she went to grad school.
And now she's back in Sacramento and she's working at a community college recruiting high school students.
Oh,
So-
cool. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so now, was there anything else about conflict that, because communication and conflict, I wanted to say that the pick up sticks analogy is
like
just beautiful. I love that.
I love that too.
Now, probably a lot of people who are listening have never played pick up sticks, but it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
With pick up sticks, you got to be really careful the next stick
really
that you
careful.
pick up.
I kind of want to.
That's
Yeah,
the whole
because
point.
you can see that. You can see them when they're down there. You kind of got to go, well, I'm just going to get this. But then it messes up the whole
Yeah.
Or
deal.
it's probably like Jenga.
Yeah.
It's like
For the modern.
reverse Jenga or something. Yeah, you got to get them all, or maybe Jenga. Yeah, you got to get them all out.
Yeah.
But you do eventually do it.
Yeah.
And it can be painstaking, but it's also kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and it's rewarding because really, even if there are tears, whatever it takes to get through to the end, and just and see that you're still loved and you're still,
and
we're still
we can have a really good conversation, like have a big conflict, have a good conversation, and then really one of us is not done by the next, it's the next day.
In the morning, it's like a hangover.
Yeah, and then so we kind of have to go revisit it another day, and
it's usually I get over it faster, but I'm also the one who cries the most. I mean, like I just make a scene and then I feel better, and then Ginny's like kind of like, wow, you really kind of made a scene just within ourselves, not out in public.
Yeah.
Like I just like blah, and she's like, wow, that was kind of hard.
No, and I'm not a huge crier anyway. And then a million years ago, I started taking Prozac, and so I never cry, hardly ever. And if I do, it's like at a weird thing, like but so the difference is kind of marked. I mean, Jody will be like, "Oh, I was crying so much," but I think it's good to be able to cry, and that will be cathartic for her, and often it's okay, but then the next day there will be, if I do, like I'll try to pretend like it's okay completely.
But it's not.
But you know how if it's just not. Yeah. So maybe I'll write her an email at work or whatever.
Or sometimes before we go to work.
Yeah, then we talk about it then. But sometimes we just have to revisit it again. But partly it takes a while to just sort out your own stuff to go, what is it? Why
and
is
Ginny's a big thinker.
Well, what's interesting is that it sounds like you give her the time to go think.
Oh, yeah. She's
that
completely...
The contract that you wrote with your daughter is really great.
I know, isn't it?
Well, wait a minute.
My daughter probably didn't feel like it was
Not at the time. Nobody ever feels great when that first is presented.
I was proud of myself at the time.
But it's a really great method because you want to engage, but it's not going to help if you're activated, if you're
you're
amygdala.
both screaming.
Right.
Then you can't hear anything.
Right. What I love about your concerns, well, you guys, you're going to think I'm painting this picture that our relationship is perfect. But the way you're describing your relationship is through the challenges.
Right, exactly.
Which is really interesting that for you, your perspective is it's perfect because of our challenges.
Well,
or
because of how
the way
we
handle
navigate
them.
them.
Yeah. A lot of people, I mean, I think the early stage relationship perspective is that our relationship is perfect because we don't have challenges.
We finish each other's sentences.
Which you guys do,
like,
but that's a whole other thing.
Do we?
But
it's
you know what I
funny.
mean? Like you guys have gotten to that phase where you're really loving the challenges and the way you handle them, which is a whole new level.
Oh yeah.
Well, and one of the things I remember that we used to come up was if something would get triggered for me in a disagreement, and I would start responding to her as if she thought all these horrible things. And Ginny would be like, I don't think those horrible things,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
kind of like, who hurt you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't believe that you would think that I would think those horrible things. No, because that's how I was responding, as if, and I could even say, well, you probably think this and this and that. And she'd just be like, no, oh my God. And then we'd have a joke about where she'd say, how did you stay married to that guy for so long? Because a lot of it probably came from my family of origin, but a lot of it probably came from that relationship too. Just how that fight style or that meanness or,
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and having, I mean, because really to be with somebody, especially when you're older in your life, I mean, you're in the life you're going to have. And I mean, in terms of careers or all those things and always growing and stuff, we have really huge individual lives and whole groups of people and all those kinds of things. I mean, we all know each other, but I mean, because we can, there's nothing really off limits. There's nothing we can't slog through it. Then, we can, it really does just expand the possibilities, so that we've gotten to do really great things individually because the other person supports us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's been a really great, we had some money issues early on during that really bad house buying time, and we slugged through that, and it triggered both of our old money stuff in our family.
Aren't money issues the best to deal with? They're so deep, right?
Yeah, Oh my God,
it's great when it's a little calmed down.
So it's but it's really so it's really great. I mean, it is kind of around the challenges in a certain way, but it's really just the challenges of being me or the challenges of being her, trying to do that with another human, which is just, a lot of, it's hard to be an authentic person, period.
Yeah.
And then to be an authentic person with another authentic person it's a great...
It's the only way to be if you
No,
can.
I know, and then it's just so rewarding in itself. Then you feel...
And it felt like a big contrast from your last relationship, Jody. But what I'm curious about with regards to that is what did you bring forward from that relationship that was a lesson or that was a learning or like a positive way?
Like a good thing I brought?
Yeah, well, any insights you brought forward from that?
Because I think what I learned was to listen to myself.
Yeah.
It sounds so...
You say that in a hesitating
selfish.
way, but I don't
it just
understand
sounds
why.
sort of shitty,
It
when
does?
if you're listening to yourself means leave that guy behind, move out of your house away from your children. And, I brought my children forward with me, and I didn't take anything out of that house. I didn't even take my dresser. No. I did take my dresser, but I didn't take anything else because I didn't want their house to look like it had big holes in it. Like that was their house. That was their home. So, I feel good about being always committed and true to my kids. And they're just like, that's just, like it's part of your guts. It's just there's just... That's just not really negotiable. And I learned from my family of origin, my mother remarried and the guy, the way it lived for me as a kid, I was in 6th grade and the way it lived for me was, my dad didn't ever make enough money for my mom. He was a freaking junior high school art teacher. And so she just lost interest in him because he wasn't a good provider. So she married a doctor instead, literally, who bought her a Porsche for their wedding gift. That it had a big bow on it. I hope she never has to hear this. But anyway, and so then from the time I was 12 until I was 18, I was living in this house with this guy that just had utter contempt for me.
Really?
And I don't think he started out that way. He had 5 kids of his own, and
To
a
whom
daughter
to whom
my
you were pretty
actual
close.
age, my exact age, and another daughter, 2 other daughters younger. And yeah, I mean, I loved them. We would travel together. They were great. I loved my step-sibs, but he was just that sort of perfectionist mentality, and nothing's ever quite right or good enough, and that feels like contempt already. And then when I was an adult, I went for every week for a year to adult children of alcoholics class, because she wasn't an alcoholic, but she was raised by one, and he kind of became one. So it's just that dysfunctional thing, like all that language. But anyway, the codependent thing. And I was like, what's that? What is that? And I went through the 12 steps. And one of the steps was to apologize for people you've wronged. But also, I just decided to forgive him. And so I sent him a letter. I was like, hey.
But they
it
weren't
seems
married
a little
anymore
late
then,
in
right?
coming, but I just want you to know that you had contempt for me, and I see that, and I know that's what that was. And the good news is I forgive you. I just figure you didn't know what that was or something. And
Did you ever hear back
it
from
was
him?
so empowering. Yes. And so then I said, you don't have to respond. I don't expect anything. I'm just telling you I see you and I forgive you. And he did write back, and he was like, that was a terrible time in my life, and you're absolutely right. Anything that was bright and shiny and good, I had contempt for.
Wow.
And so it was really powerful.
Wow.
So I think I've learned some things along the way. I don't know what I learned from my husband, my former husband. I feel like we dated. With the third date was when we slept together the first time, and I became pregnant the first time I slept with him. So it was like, surprise, and so let's get married. And so it didn't. I loved him.
But you were old.
I loved him.
I mean, you
I
were
was 30. I was 26. Sorry, exaggerating.
And he loves your children.
And he
lot.
loved me. We loved each other,
yeah.
but it just, there wasn't a lot of depth emotionally. That's it.
And the lesson was listen to yourself.
The lesson was if you can't get what you need, then you're either going to act out, or you're going to get drunk, or you're going to be a zombie, or some combination. And that's not a great way to live the best version of your life, So, and I was very, I hurt him. It hurt him for me to leave.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was fine. I'd been talking for years. I'm like, oh, this isn't quite right. Oh, I need something. Oh, I don't know what it is. Oh, we got to go to therapy. Oh, And anyway. It hurt him. It hurt him because he was like, well, I'm sorry, honey. I'm doing great. That's how I sum it up. Like, I hear that you're unhappy. Things are going great for me. It wasn't great, but he's like, I'm fine.
He's happy with someone now, though.
Yeah,
finally.
he's doing fine. I don't feel responsible for him anymore. That was the thing that I did carry forward for quite a while, is I still felt responsible for his feelings and his. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And you were just oh my God.
I cannot totally understand why you would. Like, it makes perfect sense why you would. On the other hand, it's clear from the outside that it just wasn't your responsibility at all. And it's so interesting to me how long it can take us to realize those simple truths. Mm-hmm. that he got into the relationship for some reason that he's responsible for, mm-hmm. and he perpetuated it as it was for some reason that he's responsible for, mm-hmm. and his reactions and the circumstances he created are his. Mm-hmm.
And honestly, there was this weird dichotomy where if I would try to do something to be a little more generous or a little more gracious or a little more something for him, like, God, he resented the hell out of that.
That's
I did
interesting.
not know that was going to elicit that response. I'd be like, I was just stunned by that. Like, and he just, I think, had to hate me for a while.
Yeah. Oh, you mean after you left?
Yeah. I kind of had to hate him, too, for a while.
I guess that's pretty natural.
You
As long
wouldn't
as it
think
doesn't...
so. You wouldn't think someone that you, like, the first baby was a surprise, but the second baby wasn't a surprise. And we were together for many years,
Well,
so.
I don't, having been a divorce lawyer and having seen this so many times, I can tell you that I'm pretty convinced that hate is not the opposite of love.
It's like one more level of love.
It's
only
a
the
kind
twisted
of love.
kind.
Yes, it's love with fear,
Pain.
Yeah, and then when those things come together, then it looks like anger or hate. The opposite of love is indifference.
Yes.
If you're still engaged in this emotion, it's because there's still this connection. It doesn't mean you have some obligation to go work it out and turn it into love or to turn it into a relationship, but it's acknowledging that the love didn't die, it just changed. And then because of that, I think there's always an opportunity for a different kind of connection down the road, which you guys have found.
Well, definitely when I see him with Jamie, with the grandbaby, I'm like, yeah, he was like that with his kids. And he's
he
a really
her.
good
He
grandpa.
loves her.
Like when he's with her, they're reading, they're engaged. I mean,
He really likes her, yeah.
and she likes him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. It really was so great to talk to you.
Well, that's it for our interview with Ginny and Jody, folks. Thanks for listening. In case you didn't pick up on it from the interview, Ginny has written for our magazine, and we really adore her over here. I'll put some links to some of her articles in the show notes so you can read them if you'd like to. And if you'd like to find her personal website, you can find that at finallytimeforthis.com. I'll put a link to that in our show notes as well. If you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a huge difference when you subscribe. It helps people find our show and it boosts our ratings, so we really appreciate it. And please also consider donating to our Patreon campaign. You can find that at patreon.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out to us via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. That's all for today, folks. We'll see you on Monday.